Hi, my name's Shane and I'm here today to take you for an on-foot tour of the abandoned pier head at Herne Bay. This pier head was built, along with the rest of the pier, in 1899. It was the third longest pier at the time, at just over 1.1 kilometres or 3,700 feet long. The pier continued to stay in operation until 1968, where this building with the cafe shut first, and the rest of the pier shut a bit later that year after its safety permit and insurance were withdrawn. It was left abandoned, and the pavilion at the other end caught fire in 1971. So where the pavilion was eventually refurbished and turned into a sports hall, which later ended up being demolished in 2013 to make way for the current pier that we have now. In 1978 and 1979, two storms caused sections of the pier to collapse. It was deemed dangerous, and at that point it was demolished, but this portion, the pier head, was left just sitting there as it was deemed too large and too expensive to be demolished. And since that day it's just been left here, so it's been abandoned since 1968 and it's been left here since 1980. Now the Canterbury City Council took ownership of the pier and they put this navigational beacon up, and that's what's powered by these solar panels. The whole pier, there's nothing been done to it, so you can sort of see that it's in a pretty rough state. There's not much left of the actual building, and there's rust, and these things are just in a very bad state. So it also doesn't smell particularly pretty here. There's a lot of bird poop, there's a lot of bird carcasses, and there's a surprising amount of cuttlefish. So for anyone who thinks they're going to try to come out here, be careful, because 1.1 kilometres might not sound like much, but there is some quite strong currents, so be careful, and seriously, don't come out here unless you've got some sort of powered craft. So here we can see some of the solar panels that have been rigged up to support the navigational beacon, and some more of the other electronics here. Now this is basically the only thing that's still really maintained. Now this area here actually used to be a landing area, and ships, mostly paddle steamers, would dock here. The last paddle steamer docked here in 1963, and they would drop passengers off and pick passengers up from the pier head. And there was supposedly in that building, it was originally a fully fledged restaurant, and it was later turned into a cafe and a ticket office, which I'm guessing sold both tickets for the paddle steamers and for the attractions at the other end of the pier in the pavilion. Now, I'm not sure if this was part of the installation, but that also appears to have fallen over, and here you can see even more of this is crumbling into the sea. And here I'm just going to show you some more of the solar panels and electronics that serve the navigational beacon, and these have been so long that even these are completely covered in bird scat. This is National Network of Regional Coastal Monitoring Programs, and that appears to be a data logger box for tide gauges, so it's more than just a navigational beacon. And I'm not sure exactly what this monitor does, but it's still actively measuring stuff. So I'll just take a walk onto the actual pier part itself now. Now, to anyone that does decide that they're going to come out here and explore this, it's not in a great state, so be extremely careful. There's my boat. That's an Intex Excursion 5 with a trolling motor. Canterbury City Council took ownership of this back when it closed in 1968, and they are the ones that have been doing things with it ever since. So this sign is obviously now itself very old, but that's warning me of rotten timber, which is mostly just the parts of the building. The floor isn't that bad to walk on, but as you can see, everything is royally rusty here. Now let's see where even some of these benches have broken away and fallen in. You've got piles of debris, cables and other stuff. Now these things here, these originally had what was sort of like a wooden awning hanging over them. It has since all rotted away and there's nothing left of it now, which is unfortunate. It's hard to say, given what sort of state they're in, what these buildings were, or these rooms, should I say, at the back were used for. Now I will try to get closer to those in a second. This was one of the entrance doors. I will take you inside afterwards, once I've walked the perimeter. So see more. I'm not sure why someone appears to have left Christmas lights here. You can see one of those beams is now rotted away and fallen. Unfortunately, you can also see that people have decided to leave batteries and car parts laying around, and to anyone who's listening, please don't do that on old wooden structures like these. Those pose a very severe fire risk. So take a look up here. You can see a very, very old-fashioned fuse box, with unfortunately most of the electronics having been disappeared. I'll take you around from the inside and show you those in a minute, but there are actually urinals still intact in here. They're about the only recognisable thing that's left. There is a dead seagull there, so I'm going to do my level best to not show you that on camera, but I'd like to apologise in advance if anyone does happen to spot it. Now, I'm not 100% certain what was in these rooms, but given that you see these two gravity-fed water tanks above it, I'm inclined to believe that these were most likely toilets. So again, you can just see what a colossal amount of debris there is hanging around here. Some of these are actually more spongy than the floor itself. Yeah, most of this part caved in a long time ago. Now, interestingly, I'm not sure why the council have left this building to decay, but propped this bit up. But originally, all of the wood around here fell off, and this was just left overhanging on its own. Now, the council have actually put these girders and these pieces of scaffolding up, and in a second I will show you where the logo of the company that made them is. Here you can see someone's discarded another lead acid battery. Now, given that this is the largest, widest and most open part of the structure, I'm inclined to believe that this part is probably where the cafe and the ticket office stood. I'm not sure what this thing is either. So another thing to be careful of is that there are bits of wood with nails sticking out of them everywhere. So again, I would warn anyone that comes here to be incredibly careful. Now these ones, I'm not sure why, but on this side are slightly more intact. There we can see straight down through to the sea. And there's two, I'm not sure what this part was used for either. There's not much left of whatever was in there now. And now we're basically back round to this side again. In the background there you can also see the Kentish Flats wind farm. Alright, so now we're going to go and have a little peek on the inside. So I'll step over a pile of rather nasty debris here. As you can hear, it's crunching underfoot, so it is incredibly weak. Apparently, it used to actually be possible to get through these skylights with a sort of canopy around the top near the dome. Now, it's not possible to access it now. Right, so I'm sorry if there's a slight jump in my audio. The microphones that I've got a bit temperamental and I had to stop and start recording again. So now we're hearing what I believe was probably a pantry of some description, and you can sort of see pipes and electronics running through this part. Here's one of those sort of porthole things from the inside. Shelves on which I think things would have been stored. And here we can now see the 3 urinals and a heck of a lot of bird feathers. So now we'll quickly peek through and have a look from the other side. So I'm not quite sure what this would have been attached to or what it was. So anyone who knows, feel free to leave a comment. So now we're in the part that I think is probably the front of the cafe and the ticket office, and where this is so heavily degraded, there's really just not a lot left, and you can sort of see even now that the roof is on the verge of caving in. You can see around here as well that quite a lot of it has in fact collapsed. So here we see all the scaffolding. Now, none of this is original. It was all added, I believe, by Canterbury City Council. Let's see. Ah, there we are. PSB Hire and Sales. That they were the company that have set this all up for the council. So again, I'm not sure exactly what the council's motive for letting the pier rot but stopping it fully collapsing are, but there you go. We can see the footprint around the outside there where the wooden walls once stood. This will give you an idea of how far out to sea we actually are. It's just over 1.1 kilometres. So that's about it for this tour. So if anyone's managed to stay to the end, I'd like to just thank you for watching. This video will be up both on TikTok and on YouTube, and I will leave the links to both of my socials in the comments. With that, I would like to thank you for watching, and goodbye.